everybody, Gerald here with your weather forecast. Hope you had a good week. Do apologize for not having a video out for you yesterday. I was spending some much needed kind of time outside, getting some fresh air after having a pretty crazy week last week. So hopefully this week goes a little bit better and it's not quite as hectic, but that's part of life. Sometimes you have good weeks, sometimes you don't, and you got to take the good with the bad. But with all that said, we are going to talk about some weather today, and although there's not really that much to talk about, so this video likely won't be very long, I will give you kind of the information we have right now and what to expect going into this week, including a very nice warm-up that even I, as someone who's always looking forward to nice winter weather, I am super excited to have this more spring-like weather going into this week. Might even get to wear shorts, which will be super exciting to see. So starting off by looking at our radar here, we do have this area of low pressure that's getting going off the southeast coast here. And right now that has led to some cloud coverage across sections of the southeast and even some rain here further down here into the coastal areas of the Carolinas from Myrtle Beach up towards Wilmington. But as we go into tonight, this kind of cluster of storms will begin to organize, although pushing offshore. So impacts, don't expect much more than what you're seeing right now in those areas. Other than that, not really all that much going on here across the eastern half of the country. Some, light snow showers up here into Maine, but other than that, really not much to talk about. And looking at that satellite imagery, again, this is our most interesting kind of weather we got going on right now is down here off the southeastern coast, having this area of low pressure get going, and this is going to really mature and intensify as it kicks off up through the Gulf Stream and kind of pretty far off the northeastern United States coastline, so don't expect too many impacts, but nonetheless have had some clouds kind of into the southeast today. Even this morning in Charlotte, we had pretty cloudy skies, but that has since cleared up. I'm looking outside right now and really not much out there, so definitely improving here in the southeast. Looking at those hazards, again, really just not much right now. This is the quietest we've been weather-wise, I think maybe so far this year in 2023, so very weird time to have that right now in the first week of February. You'd think we'd be talking about some kind of big snowstorm, but we're really talking about not much at all. So looking at temperatures out there right now, pretty nice weather, honestly, for February. We're getting up into solidly into the 50s, all the way up here towards the St. Louis area into the 50s, up here into the 50s towards DC. Some of those lower temperatures with that rainfall associated there into sections of the southeast. But, overall pretty nice weather. A little bit of that cold shot hanging on up here into sections of New England, but still much nicer weather than what we were dealing with just a couple days ago. And looking at tonight's forecast, once again, an above average night for February. That freezing line being, caught pretty far up north tonight, and getting above freezing for much of us into the mid-Atlantic and the southeast, so very nice weather going into tonight. And luckily, I think tomorrow will be probably the nicest day of the week, if you look at the country as a whole at least, before we get some more active weather to move in later this week, So looking at that going into tonight, again, this area of low pressure really gets cranking up the southeast coastline, and that's going to kick off to the northwest, so clouds and those storms will begin to work kind of out of the picture, and by the time we get into tomorrow afternoon here, we've got this storm that's really bombed out, quite honestly, here off the coast, but really nice weather as a whole here across the eastern half of the country. And in terms of temperatures, it's going to be a really spring-like day, let me tell you. Look at this very warm Gulf air working up here into the southern half of the United States, getting into the 60s here into sections of the mid-Atlantic from Charlotte up towards Raleigh could hit the 60s, wouldn't surprise me at all. And then pushing 70s down here into the Gulf Coast areas. So really a spring-like day it's going to feel like compared to kind of that cold weather we had just a day or two ago. And I'm personally looking forward to that. Hopefully you all are as well. Looking past that, going into Tuesday here, still looks like a relatively nice day, although I think we get a system to get going here and get more kind of cloudy, drizzly, showery weather to return here to sections of the central part of the country going into Tuesday. And that likely spreads eastbound, but I think it kind of stalls out a little bit here over sections of the southern plains going into Wednesday before this system finally begins to mature and then work through the eastern half of the country. So looking at kind of this central part of the country here, up and around the Mississippi River, I think Tuesday, Wednesday are going to be kind of rainy, cloudy days, but areas further east here along the eastern seaboard should stay relatively nice until we get into Wednesday night, and Thursday is whenever those conditions likely deteriorate. And with this system, there's the potential for severe weather, although I don't think the ingredients are lining up for anything major, but we'll watch here into kind of the southern tier of the country. And we do have a marginal risk already issued here for sections of Texas. And we'll talk about that here in a minute after we look through the rest of this week. But that's kind of going to be the picture, I think, for the next couple of weeks, is these rounds of these systems that get going that could produce severe weather. But again, they're so far out, it's kind of hard to pin down exactly who's going to see that severe weather. But like normal for this time of the year, I would guess down here into the Gulf states having that highest chance of seeing some severe storms on and off throughout the next week or two, really. So that was round one. We probably get another round of some kind of storm system, to move in going into this coming weekend. And that one, could potentially produce some snow in areas, but really this pattern just is not conducive for any kind of major snowstorm for anybody in the East Coast. And then, even going further out into time, it looks like we just kind of continue this pattern of rounds of storms just cutting up and just producing the chance of severe storms in the south, and really not much snow to come by at all, I think, through the first half of February. So we really have quite the snow drought going on. I think that's going to continue for the next week or two. And you can see temperatures this week. This is looking at Tuesday for you. Again, this warm air just continuing to lock into place, spring-like weather taking over. That continues into Thursday, when I think sections of the Carolinas even might get into the 70s. So Thursday, I think, definitely looks like short weather here for a big section of the country, here into the southeast at least. But we will, of course, reintroduce those rain chances going into the latter half of this coming week. Pattern still kind of continues going into this weekend. So again, we do have that chance of some severe storms potentially. This is day 3, so if today is Sunday, let me do some mental math here. Day 2, this is going into Tuesday, if my math is correct, sorry. But as we get that system to kind of crank up here over the southern plains, I do think we have that chance of at least some severe weather, but I don't think this will be a huge deal right now, though we'll have to watch those model trends and see if they trend into more of a severe weather look. And I kind of felt like that's been the theme so far this year, is kind of short range, these things uptrend and become more of a problem than we kind of think longer range out. So we'll look for that. The other story, though, is just going to be kind of this rainfall. I think the most rainfall that we'll see is going to be here in the southern plains and around the Mississippi River into the Arklatex region of the country, up towards Little Rock, I think, being pretty soggy throughout the next 7 days or so. And lesser totals here into the southeast, because I think these systems, as they cut so far north, are going to kind of lose some of that potential to tap into some of that Gulf moisture. So whenever the low pressure is down here, it's easier to tap into that Gulf moisture and cause some of that rain. But by the time it gets up here into the Great Lakes, it's a lot harder to be able to tap into that. So less rain for the southeast and mid-Atlantic, which will be nice because we've seen so much rain here. There's been kind of mud all over the place. So that'll be nice to kind of be relatively dry, I guess, if you will, compared to what we've been seeing. But the other main story is just how warm it's going to be. So this is going through this week. You see these red temperatures locking in across the eastern half of the country, and that continues. I do think after that storm system into kind of the middle part of the weekend and through this weekend, after we get through whatever systems we do deal with, there will be a bit of a cool down, but we're not looking at any kind of sustained cool downs. And then once again, we likely get right back into that springtime weather, and that just looks to lock in for a while before we'll watch later into February. We'll see if maybe we can get some kind of return of cold air. But really for the next 10 days, I'm seeing just majority spring-like weather, maybe a couple of cold shots here and there, but nothing really to talk about other than that. So, if you enjoyed the video, I appreciate you going ahead and watching it. Likely, if you are watching this, you're one of those people that watch most of my videos because, not much is going on. So if that is you, thank you for joining me. It does mean a lot to be somebody that no matter what the weather's like, to come on back and watch. That does mean a lot to me. So let me know if that is you and you made it to the end. That is super exciting. I don't think this video lasted too long. Haven't really been keeping track of the time, but anyway, with all that said, I do hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend and enjoy some of that spring-like weather. And I will make sure to get a video out tomorrow, and I will see you all then.